Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are watching. I'm your host, Crypto Glenn. I want to say thank you all for viewing this video. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to be here with me, and I appreciate it. A little bit of a slow day in the markets, August 15th. Not really a whole lot going on. We got some news coming out with ETFs. The SEC has decided to delay the Bitcoin ETF, at least for those in the United States, until early 2024. Earlier this month, BlackRock decided to offer up their opinion and say, hey, with there being so many ETFs available and everyone who's filing an ETF now, they kind of know what they need to put in the application in order to get this approved. So why don't you guys just go ahead and approve them all at the same time? The SEC actually declined commentary on that. A co-founder, chief investment officer at Volatile Shares, the firm behind the listing of the leveraged Bitcoin ETF in June, told Cointelegraph its process for applying with the SEC involved back and forth negotiations. Again, I think this is just more, hey, we don't exactly know who you guys wanted to use for your custody. And when BlackRock had that hang up, the SEC came out and said, hey, this application is not complete. But after BlackRock came out and said, actually, we're going to be using Coinbase, the SEC formally accepted their application. So it turns out, you've got big companies here that have been doing the same thing they've been doing for years. Yeah, there's new applications, new filings. They haven't really moved the argument along. Again, if you guys have incomplete applications, it's not really going to do a great job of pushing things along. Part of the SEC's seeming reluctance to sign off on a spot crypto ETF could be from the nature of the crypto market in the United States. Well, if they would just give people regulation, they wouldn't have to worry about that. Now, would they? Which, while regulated, has left many lawmakers and industry leaders calling for greater clarity and oversight. The SEC is currently pursuing enforcement cases against Coinbase, Binance, and Ripple. It's no doubt that they absolutely have their handful. Actually, earlier this week, the SEC has kind of gone on and made additional commentary on if the Pelican review is not approved by the judge, then what's going to happen is they're going to go through and just form a formal appeal. So, lock in for the long haul. This probably isn't anything that's going to be over in the next 5 minutes, no matter how bad any of us are ready for the bull run to start. Just kind of take this opportunity to really just review projects that you're into. The market's down a little bit today. It's probably going to be down a little bit over the next week or so, just assuming that, volume stays low. Potentially a good opportunity to buy some more projects that you're passionate on. U.S. lawmakers are currently considering legislation on better define the roles in the SEC, the Commodities Futures CFTC should have in regulating the digital assets. I think if the SEC can't get it done, let the CFTC take a whack at it, see if they can actually make a bit more progress on it. In addition to both the regulatory and industry may consider the court decisions until regulations are better defined. So again, we've got more jockeying back and forth for position. They want to wait until these lawsuits are over before they can really start to nail these things down. A judge in the SEC versus Ripple case largely ruled that XRP was not a security, creating ramifications for everyone else dealing with crypto in the United States. The ETF application process puts the SEC in an incredibly powerful position, said Barton. Gensler has a great amount of sway, and that the political makeup of the commission definitely influences that. So, Gary Gensler's still on a warpath, and until they can kind of assign somebody else to take power away from the SEC or just completely remove the SEC from having oversight over crypto, again, this is probably going to be this way for the duration. So I really don't see markets pushing up until then. The risk of that is when you start to look at Bitcoin here. I know we've got a little bit of a charting action going on. When you start to look at Bitcoin here, let me bring this back to the daily. If market participants get tired of just waiting, if they feel like it's going sideways and dropping for too long, they'll just gracefully bow out of the markets. And then you're not going to have anybody to push up these bids to even keep prices around 30,000 like they're at right now. Granted, this 30,000 is a pretty significant level of resistance. It has been going all the way back to, Q1, Q2 of this year. And again, that's probably not going to change. But if we can't start to find bids to push us up above this, then there's going to be a strong likelihood that Bitcoin in itself could just fall to, levels that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. Let me just go ahead and get that out the way. That might make it a little bit easier to see. But, we had a nice, decent push up here. And since then, we've kind of been drooping and trading sideways. Again, market participants, you don't want to see this. You at least want to see some kind of interim action, and you're not really getting that. So, yeah, SEC, if they're not going to let up, and if we can't make significant headway here over, the next I'd say quarter and a half. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually started to drop below, former levels of support, maybe even revisit the 25 area. Of course, if you hit 25, 20Ks in range, and it's not outside the realm of possibility for you to go to 20, even sub 10. You guys know I've been saying that 11.2 and 98.50 could be a range that we could revisit, completely dependent upon what macroeconomic variables are doing at this time. Let's hear it for the countries that don't completely have their heads up their rear ends. Europe's first spot Bitcoin ETF is going live. This actually took place today. Get out of here. This Bitcoin ETF was actually traded on Euronext, I believe is the name of the exchange. It's out of Amsterdam, and it was actually slated to be released about a year ago. But again, they had potential hangups on their application. A key partner in this ETF is actually going to be Fidelity, as Fidelity is going to be handling the custody for all of the Bitcoins that are being listed in this ETF. And you can see it here. It's being listed on Euronext in Amsterdam. I'd like to take a look at this and just see how it's performed. Day one, the market should be closed now. Early when I took a look, I think they were trading at around 20 or just over $20 or so a share for the ETF. I'd also like to take a look at what other items are made up in that fund and how the weighted average is, just for my own personal knowledge. So the fund secured initial capital investment to kick off the operations on August 3rd. Jacoby CEO Martin Binal told Blockworks. The asset manager has added a variable renewable energy certificate, REC, to the ETF. So this just means essentially where they get their Bitcoins, the mining farms, they're all, or primarily the majority of them, are on renewable energy. I think that's going to be huge because, again, if you know, but if you're not doing renewable, you're probably not getting investment dollars. BlackRock, they're kind of spearheading that whole entire thing. Not to say that I think BlackRock has their hand in anything that's going on here, but potentially Europe's BlackRock, if I can say that, they might be kind of handing down that mandate. The fund employs external data measures to the energy usage linked to Bitcoin in the ETF. Jacoby then buys and retires corresponding renewable energy credits or certificates, a recognized tool for buying green energy. So, this is just an ETF that definitely has their eyes on renewable, and potentially they just want to stay ahead of the curve if mandates for renewable Bitcoin mining does come down the pipeline, which really shouldn't be an issue because a vast majority of Bitcoin mining farms are actually on renewable energy. I think it's worth mentioning that this is not technically the first spot Bitcoin ETF in Europe. Prior to this one, they had a series of crypto exchange traded funds, NTNs, try saying that 5 times fast. The primary uses of these they were to track companies that had significant holdings of Bitcoin as well as a miner. So think Grayscale, maybe even Van Eck, think Riot. These were all companies that were made up in these NTNs. And prior to actually reading this article, I had never heard of that, but it's, definitely good to see that we've got foreign markets paying attention to what companies in America are doing. Moving on, taking a look here at everybody's favorite coin, JK XRP. We were on live on TikTok Live last night. Lynn, I forget her entire handle, but I believe she's got Lynn in her name, and she was just asking, hey, where are we, going for XRP, with some price points that we need to be on the lookout for. And we just basically said, hey, you don't want to lose 60. And we did a little bit of TA, did some charting, some technical analysis, and just said 60 is definitely a key point to be paying attention to. Let me turn my doodles back on here so you guys can see this. All right. And I was just making mention. I said, hey, in certain portions of this pattern inside the overall pattern here, you can definitely see that there's somewhat of a small bear flag that's been printed here. This was kind of going back to around the 12th of August. And since then, we've absolutely dropped down. Put this line in when we were actually talking with Lynn yesterday, and we said, hey, if you fall below this is definitely not good. And you see today that we came down to around 58. I said, if you lose 60, there's a probability you're probably going to go to 57. And I'm not sure if we hit 50. Actually, we did. Yeah, just kind of right on the nose there. Let's zoom in. Just almost. I mean, almost, right? So almost. How are we at on our measured move for this move? So 6, and you've got another, so about 2% left for that measure move to be completed. But what I think is absolutely interesting is in the last 4 hours, obviously we broke out, we came back. This candle has closed beneath resistance. We obviously tried to test it. We failed. We've bounced off. And now we're just kind of hanging out here underneath resistance. And this 4-hour candle is going to close in the next 27-30 minutes. So we're definitely going to keep an eye out for that. But yeah, if you're holding XRP, I've said it once, I'll say it again, you definitely do not want to lose that 60 cent mark, because if you do, you're probably going to hit this 57 again, maybe even 55. There you go. It's 57 again on the daily. You know, you could potentially go down to 56, 55, and then from there, you know, we'll have to reassess. But again, that's not any territory that you want to be in, right? I think a lot of people were thinking that, hey, after this lawsuit is over, that's where this pump came from on news that XRP was being relisted, and you know, you ran up a fairly decent amount, but then you actually just turned around and you gave back 35%. Again, that's not really where you want to be at. For me to have complete and total utter faith in XRP, I would have liked to have seen price remain consistent, but that's not what we're getting. So I don't think XRP has actually shed its old identity of kind of being like a pump and dump, so to speak. And I know there's people out there that hate it, but guys, it's like, it is what it is, man. You ran up 99%. I'll give you 100. Yeah, you probably did a little bit over 100. So you went 100% and you've already given up 35% of that move, right? That's pretty pumpy and dumpish, if you ask me. So again, I don't think XRP is ready to step into the light that most people wanted to see. I just don't think your fundamentals are there. We've always talked about this, that if, you know, you got greenlit by the government, if you got all these partnerships, allegedly right now you're not a security, why is there no flip of the switch that's happening, right? So either the banks don't want to use you, they have no need for you, or maybe it's like I've always said, and you just don't need XRP to be on the XRPL. I mean, we have seen documentation from Ripple officials that have kind of corroborated that information, but I guess sometimes you just can't tell people anything. Taking a look here at the bubbles, it'll give us an overall visual look at how the rest of the market is doing. Again, it's a slow day. Aptos down 8%, Matic down 7%, FTT token is down 10%. So if you're trying to get in here and potentially pick out your next trade, just know that it's going to be a little bit of slim pickings, and that this is going to be a little bit of a chart watcher. You know, when we look at stories in the crypto space that actually hold the most weight, obviously, I don't think there's really any bigger than what's going on with Binance. I know a lot of people might want to argue that, hey, XRP is pretty important. And yeah, for some people, if you're in that camp, it's, you know, it's important. But again, I think you guys, for at least the time being, have what you want. It's not a security, and you're still, again, not seeing a price action that you want to see. So I think that right there is just pretty much a big old nothing burger. So I believe that the biggest story right now in crypto is what's going on with Binance and the SEC. And speaking of burger flippers, I didn't know that CZ was actually a former burger flipper. I know he's been turned a billionaire, obviously, from being in crypto, but I didn't know he worked at a fast food joint or a restaurant prior to getting into the crypto space. So obviously they've been engaged in a massive legal battle against Wall Street's top cop, the SEC. I believe, and obviously the author of this article believes, that the winner of that court battle is going to basically define what's going to happen with crypto. This summer, the SEC filed more than a dozen charges against Binance, which operates the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, and its founder, chief executive, Changpeng Zhao. They accuse of misleading investors and operating an unregistered and therefore illegal exchange. Better known by his initials, CZ, Binance CEO is accused of orchestrating an elaborate scheme to invade U.S. federal securities laws. If you want to say he evaded it, sure, I guess. But how many people really paid the price for that? Like, come on, SEC, like, lighten up, right? There's nothing wrong with people making money. I think, if you ask me, I think people are just looking at this wrong. I think we should look at it, the more people that make money, the more tax revenue the government gets to collect, right? I mean, talk about a silver lining. That's good for those guys. The sweeping charges, which are being fiercely contested by Binance, are part of an aggressive crackdown of the crypto industry that kicked in a high gear after FTX collapsed. Speaking of which, as you guys hear, Sam Bankman is actually being placed in jail because he was watching football and he essentially leaked documentations from his former ex-girlfriend and Alameda Research employee. I forget her name, but he leaked that to a reporter, I believe, and it was in violation of his bail agreement. What an idiot. In recent months, the SEC has filed a barrage of lawsuits against several other companies, including Coinbase, which operates another popular cryptocurrency exchange. With each of these actions, the agency is trying to bring crypto to heel, something Gary Gensler has called for since he became chair of the SEC. I personally just think Gary Gensler is someone who got picked last for sports, maybe didn't get a whole lot of action in high school or college. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but let's be honest, the people that tend to be a little bit of a stickler when everybody's having fun, that's usually the backstory. You know, we're not talking about trying to bring people to heel for promoting illegitimate information that get people destroyed. We're talking about people that, you know, want to go after folks just making money. That's no fun. So, I mean, that's pretty much everything that's going on in the crypto space right now. Again, it's not really a whole lot. One stop financial shop, Binance has more than 140 million users worldwide who use it to buy and sell cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. It's not just a trading platform like the NASDAQ. It's really hard to overstate how important Binance is to the crypto ecosystem. Today, it has reached an arm and lending business. In some countries, Binance offers a cryptocurrency debit card, and it's also a marketplace for digital art and riskier assets like cryptocurrency derivatives. Listen, I think if you're able to take a trade or a test rather to prove your competency that you know what's going on with derivatives, I think you should be able to do that. Again, I just look at what's going on with the SEC, and they're just trying to blockade people from making money. And making money is fun, and if you know what you're doing, you should be able to be rewarded for that. But again, that's pretty much the news right here. What am I looking at? Again, just kind of keeping my eyes to see if we're going to get a little bit of a Bitcoin bounce. You see here, I'm thinking that we should see some bounce off to 382 here. A nice little steep retracement, maybe potentially before moving back to the upside. But again, it's still a little too early to call. I'd like to see what Bitcoin does over the next 4 hours. If we're going to sit here, hopefully this does not turn into a doji candle, because let's be honest, that wouldn't be good for anybody. But, you know, again, nothing can go up forever. And if it's time for us to take another leg down, then so be it. The traders out there, they're going to take advantage of it. The people who are trying to dollar cost averaging on their positions, they're going to get a really good opportunity to buy in. And Ethereum right now is currently at a price we haven't seen in a little while, 18.7, potentially on its way back to the 1700 area. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comment section below. Again, I appreciate you all for joining. A little bit of a shorter video today. But again, there's just not a whole lot that's going on. Might do a live stream here on YouTube a little bit later, so you are all welcome to join me for that. Greatly appreciate it. And let me know how the audio is on this. I know in the last video, we got some feedback from some viewers saying, hey, the audio is a little too low, so turn it up. Hopefully this is better for you all. Again, let me know. If it is, I'd just like to mark that volume so that we're good moving forward. Again, appreciate you for joining this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.